A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 161. Minamoto no Reiku, Berserker of Red, POV. Insect! I scowled, looking at the trash that dared to raise his blade against my master, Sun. Our blades met. He was perceptive enough to respond the moment I revealed myself. His footing was steady. Even as he retreated with each step, he did not forego the initiative as our battle began. He absorbed each of my blows into his own movements, to minimalize the force. An endurance fighter. Annoying. I glanced to the side to see Master, Sun, start a fight with the other servant. The golden one with the strange spear. He made me feel something odd. A sense of rivalry that swelled up when I gazed at him. I did not know where it came from, and a part of me wished to fight him, to prove my superiority. I ignored it, following Master's, Sun's, commands to engage this warrior. I would chastise him when the fighting was over. He should not be putting himself in harm's way to fight a servant, even if he is not a normal human. My Kentoki was the same too. The similarities are truly great when comparing the both of them. Perhaps I will have to dote on him in the same way. His mother is all he needs. Such strength. The saber servant commented, feet buried in the ground to block my attack. I clicked my tongue as he swiped his great sword at me. His style swordsmanship not something I was used to, but I adapted rather quickly. Readjusting himself, he thrust with great power and speed, momentarily taking me by surprise as I twisted my body to dodge, my battle suit being torn, but no blood drawn. I summoned my divine lightning in return, discharging everything in a quick burst. Impressive! The saber servant waved his hand, clearing away the remnants of my attack as I took a step back. I could press him, but often discretion is the better answer, especially in a situation where we do not know what enemies may be watching. I do not enjoy the prattling of insects, merely accept being crushed. Haha! He let out a self-deprecating laugh. Well, if there's one thing I'm confident in, it's my durability. With a quick swing of his sword, the ground was torn asunder. I burst through the upturned earth, my mana burst enveloping me as I slashed down at him once again. His feet dug deep, and his blade still held true. I could only click my tongue in annoyance again, increases my speed by another level. Twisting my wrist, I changed the direction of my blow, slashing upwards after another deflection. He didn't react in time, my blade digging into his skin, and my divine lightning churning out increased force. Instead of retreating, he grit his teeth, holding his sword up high and swinging down, and I was forced to sidestep, his blade destroying the ground beneath us. I was sure I cut you deeper than that. I looked at the blood dripping from his chest. I am positive my blade went in much further, yet it was more like a paper cut than anything. The saber servant ran a thumb down his chest, wiping away the blood, revealing that the wound was already gone. As I said, I am confident in my durability. He paused, looking over to the side. I followed his gaze, landing on his unconscious master if I had to guess. The lord of a man should be happy that my master, Sun, didn't kill him. You take your eyes of me in the middle of a fight? I narrowed my eyes at him. An insect actually looks down on me like this. My sword shot out, piercing into his chest, his momentary lapse costing him dearly, or so I would like to say. No, it was barely 2 fingers worth inside him, his hand gripped around the edge and stopping me from going further. It's not that his strength is greater than mine, it was the combination of his strength and his overall durability. Berserker! Master suddenly called through the link. I forgot my foe and turned my head as a massive amount of magical energy suddenly enveloped the area, and I immediately disengaged to go after him. Wilhelm POV. What is this? Lacer's expression changed drastically for the first time. His flames, his divine fire was being devoured and destroyed. Our weapons locked, my sword of destruction pushing against his golden spear, his fire bursting out in all directions, and my power of destruction crackled and arced out, intercepting the flames that sought to harm me. They didn't stop. There were times it moved and wrapped around him, his skin destroyed at the mere touch before his flame snuffed it out. My aura visibly surged to feed into my power of destruction to fight against his relentless flames. My bloodline, it was almost like it was eager to fight against the divine, to reach out and strike at those who dwelled above. You are not an ordinary human. Lancer looked at me, less perturbed by my power. I see it. You are something strange. Does he have an ability that allows him to glimpse into my true nature? I grit my teeth, pushing every last bit of aura I could output, and he shuddered under the sudden intensity of my destruction. He almost reeled back as it jutted out towards his body. I'm just a normal human, I grinned, mentally calling forth my other blades to swing down on him. The flames around him increased several-fold, the ground under us turning to molten rock, my swords forced away at the sudden explosive power. My eyes widened as my power of destruction was overtaken in sheer output. I held back a sigh, forcing whisper into the air. No, I shouldn't have expected to win a fight like that. If I had more practice, more time with my bloodline ability, then maybe. There were no ifs in a fight. Noticing my lack of reprisal, Lancer's weapon pushed forward, destroying my guard and slashing into my side. My aura had gone critically low, his weapon tearing into my skin, but it also triggered my defenses in my clothing. A divine weapon is a divine weapon. The dust that Jin had woven into my shirt activated. A burst of elemental power exploded out from the wound. What? Lancer looked surprised at the sudden retaliation, forcing him back. Is this the time to be losing focus? I smirked, holding my arms out, the sky having gotten a bit cloudy in the last few moments. The servant looked up, unable to keep that bewildered look off his face. Hammer of Thor! The massive lighting figure that conglomerate had raised its hammer into the air, lighting up the night sky. My new attribute, my additional element that I had been imbued with, had once again further increased the power of the spell. It swung down onto the unsuspecting servant as I retreated away with full speed, grabbing a shocked ruler servant with me. Yeah! She sputtered out as I threw up several shields I could in that brief moment, and they all broke at the sudden cataclysmic force. The earth scorched, the ground sundered, and a huge gorge was now where a highway used to be. Magnificent, the voice of Lancer echoed out as everything settled. I held back a growl as he floated out of the new cavern I made. He was hurt. My spell had managed to reach him. That was something not many mages could boast about. If I did not have my armor, I would have been grievously injured. There was blood dripping from several places, and even charred parts of his body, but nothing I could call critical. The golden armor around his body. No doubt it was also divine in origin, otherwise I couldn't guess how he managed to walk off my attack. You bastard! I couldn't help but laugh. What a monster! Your name! He held out his spear, pointing towards me. I wished to hear the name of the living person who was able to wound me. Wilhelm. I will refrain from giving my family name as it would reveal something I wish to keep secret for now. Wilhelm. He nodded in understanding. I will follow my orders, but I will offer noble phantasm in thanks for this wonderful battle. His lance ignited in fire, but it felt much different. A chill ran down my spine, as if death was descending on me. I looked back at Ruler, who looked ready to defend herself, but I doubt she would be willing to extend that to me. Berserker. I cut out through the link. Should I use a command seal? I clenched my fists and let out a laugh. I had my own pride. I withdrew the Staff of Magnus from inside my storage, and the boosted gear appeared on me left hand as a precaution. My swords were floating around me protectively. Obrama, curse me! The world shifted, as a spear ignited in a much denser flame. It dyed the entire area in a red hue. My throat burned, and even my skin began to dry at a noticeable rate. Runes spun around me. The strongest shield I could make, the completed form of it. I wasn't finished. My primordial runes appeared, interlaying with the spell itself, forming a conceptual level of defense that further increased the bulwark, all amplified by my divine construct. Brahmastra Kundala! He threw his spear, and the space around it was burned away. Even as my vision filled with nothing but his divine fire, I slammed my staff down. Shield of Asgard! My vision became fire, as if the sun enveloped me, my shield. I could feel the initial impact. My spell shuddered under blow. I saw nothing but fire, of this heat that pushed down and threatened to burn me alive. My shield, it continued to hold, but cracks could be seen forming. Ha! I let out a shout, forcing more magical energy through me into the barrier to maintain it. The strain was bearable, but I wouldn't be able to maintain this forever. The force of the attack was something else, the conceptual weight of a noble phantasm bearing down on me. My translucent golden shield fought back, my magical energy pouring in. My primordial runes shined bright. even under the intense light of his divine fire. Cracked and barely whole, my shield still stood once his noble phantasm dissipated. I used the staff to steady myself from the sudden exertion, staring at the servant who didn't move, even as his gaze landed on me. "You withstood my noble phantasm," he said with no small amount of awe in his voice. I let out a long breath, gathering my magical energy to begin once again. "Master," I heard Berserker's voice through the link, followed by a crack of thunder, her signature purple lightning crashing down into Lancer's unsuspecting face. He moved his spear up to block, and my eyes widened as his arm holding his weapon went flying through the air, severed clean from his body. "Arjuna!" Lancer blurted out, seemingly more concerned by Berserker's appearance than the fact that he just lost an arm. Berserker landed on the ground, about to attack again, but Lancer's body was enveloped by a burst of magical energy, and he was suddenly teleported away. Well, I was going to do something similar, but I guess Berserker doing it is fine too. "A command seal," I grunted, falling to my butt. It was the correct play to make from the other side. I looked to the ground and his weapon also was gone, but his arm turned into magical energy and dissipated. "Master!" Berserker was on me immediately. "I'm fine." I couldn't help but pat her head as the atmosphere changed instantaneously. She looked exceedingly happy to receive my touch. I showed her the white light in my hand as it was already working on healing my wound. It wasn't very deep. I was more concerned with the divine nature of his weapon than the wound itself. I hope there are no lingering effects like the weapons from the Abrahamic cosmology. "Who's this?" Her face turned dark again, her sword gripped tight, staring at Ruler. I forgot about her in that moment, my shield having protected her as well. "I'm Ruler." She hesitantly introduced herself. "I'm the moderator for this Grail War." "Master, I'll remove this woman. Just give me a moment." Berserker was about to move, and Ruler looked a mite bit scared. "Berserker, stop." I pulled on her. "Her being alive is good for us," I briefly explained. And it didn't matter if I called her Berserker, since a Ruler servant could identify any other servant by just a glance. "But Master, how can an insect like that help us at all?" Ruler's eye twitched slightly again as she stood up straighter. "Attacking the moderator is against the rules. If you persist, I will have to punish you." "Oh how?" Berserker let out a little laugh. "Master, just let me crush this little harlot. It won't take long." "Harlot!" Ruler squeaked out. "Reiku." I called her by her real name, which actually caused her to pause and give me her full attention. "Let's just get back to our hideout so I can rest." "Mao, whatever my master wants." She quickly changed tunes. I stood up steadily enough, putting everything away but Mirage. It appears that Saber of Black took his master away at the first opportunity. I looked at Ruler one last time. She was a bit on guard, but also looking at me as if trying to give me an appraisal. For some strange reason, I had the incessant need to bully her, and I just couldn't figure out why. With a sigh, I opened a new portal up and pulled Berserker through. The last look at this place was the sun peaking above a mountain range. Or rather, what was left of it after Lancer's attack, because I'm pretty sure there were 3 peaks in total before tonight, and I could only count 2 now. Chapter 162. Saber of Black, Siegfried, POV. I carried my master back to the Black faction's base. I couldn't help but turn around and see the destruction wrought at the activation of Lancer's noble phantasm. It was impressive and made me wonder if I could survive it without activating my own in response. My battle between the other Saber, I managed to pull her far enough away from Master's unconscious body so that he wouldn't get swept up in the battle. But even then, I was still able to see the effects of the fight that had taken place in the area I retreated from. Both far and close enough to keep an eye on Mastery and intervene if he was ever in harm's way. It was the only option I had in that immediate moment when I saw that Saber of Red's master had no intention of harming my own. Passing through the defenses of the Igmalenia castle, I could sense many eyes now on me, but none barred my path. Walking into the castle, I was greeted by some of my fellow servants and their masters, all of whom stared at me expectantly. "Saber!" Lord Darnick Preston Igmalenia, the head of the Igmalenia family, spoke up. While he was not my master, he was my master superior, so I would give him the proper courtesy. "Lord Darnick." As I moved to set my master down, several homunculi ran over and began to check him for any injuries. I knew he was not severely injured, but I would not be against a more thorough check. Magecraft was never an art I could claim competence in, not to mention the inner workings of the human body and how to properly care for someone who had been hurt. He had some burns and cuts in some places, but I believe he will make a full recovery with ease. We lost communication, and Castor's scrying was not successful. The master of the Magus family gripped his scepter tightly. What happened, Saber? I looked at my master, who ordered me not to be frivolous with my words, but the situation was one I could not remain silent in. Perhaps I would be scolded when he awoke, as I was also liberal during my fight. Another servant appeared, Saber of Red. Saber of Red? Lancer, who had been standing at Darnik's side, spoke up. Do you know their identity? A woman of the Far East. I shook my head. Saber, speak openly. What can you tell us about the servant? Darnik glanced at my unconscious master and back to me. If it was an order from the one who could hold authority over my master. She was physically my superior, and her speed was above mine. Her skill was undeniable. I voiced my thoughts. I'm sorry, that's all I know. Unfortunate, but not unhelpful. Lord Darnik did not appear to be annoyed with my minimal information. It's impressive that you were able to retreat against 2 servants, and even keep your master safe. He gave praise. I'm sorry, I did not mention that I was not engaged by both Saber and Lancer. I quickly clarified. I believe the 2 servants to be hostile to one another. And it was Saber's master who. I looked at Master Gords. Can you describe him? What magecraft did he employ? He had striking red hair pulled into a ponytail, and he appeared to use lightning magecraft. Lord Darnik tapped his chin. I don't recognize a magus by that description. He swept his gaze around the room. The Byros family, a young woman in a wheelchair, whom was Archer's master, spoke up. They're known for their lightning magecraft. No. Another voice answered. A second woman, who stood next to the rather flamboyant rider, whom possessed a rather sadistic personality based on our few interactions. They don't have anyone in their family with red hair, and they're small enough that any bastards would be hard to hide. It's unlikely he would hide his identity as well. The woman in a wheelchair continued. I find it unlikely a magus from the association would not want the glory tied to their families or lineages. Did he support his servant at all? Any hidden spells he could have cast that you didn't notice during the fight? Even a description of actualization would be helpful. The wheelchaired woman, her name was Fiore. He did not support Saber as he went off to battle Lancer. What? Ryder's master blurted out. Are you saying Saber's master fought a servant? I'm sorry, I did not mention that. The battle was noticeable from the distance. I had assumed you knew what I was speaking of when I said he knew lightning magecraft. It was clear he did not wish to harm my master, otherwise he would not be alive. I explained properly. Wait, are you implying that the huge lightning strike we saw was magecraft from Saber's master? Fiore blurted out. I thought that was a noble phantasm. Seriously. Ryder, who looked bored, seemed to perk up. Saber of Red's master did that? I thought magecraft these days was weak. Ryder. His master hissed in annoyance. Oops, teehee, Ryder rubbed his head. A master capable of fighting a servant in some capacity. Interesting. Lancer of Black let out a laugh. And we have no knowledge of his identity? I don't think such an individual would be unknown in this age. Based on what we did see, the following attack that destroyed the mountain, that was undeniably Lancer. I would suggest the same. I nodded. It was obvious Lancer's attacks contained the fire element within them, enough that even I felt their heat through my dragon armor. If Lancer used his noble phantasm, was it meant for the master or ruler? Archer, who held Fiore wheelchair, voiced his words for the first time. Ryder's master scoffed. It was obvious to get rid of ruler. We all saw how he was gunning for her. She crossed her arms. A servant having to use a noble phantasm against a master? Ridiculous. And he's probably dead at this point. There's no way he could survive that attack that we felt even all the way over here. Maybe. And the look in Archer's eyes said he didn't fully believe that as well. There were some things that didn't add up. Why wasn't Saber more concerned about her master being in the way of a servant battle between ruler and Lancer if he was not capable? And why did I get this strange feeling in my heart when I gazed at him? I wanted to fight Lancer again. Our bout was interfered with before we could truly test each other, and I felt as if I found a kindred spirit, but for some reason, the urge to fight Saber's master kept swelling up inside me. Regardless, Lancer is a foe we can't ignore. His noble phantasm is likewise powerful and destructive. We must start preparing countermeasures. Lord Darnick raised his scepter up, addressing the room. "Humph, leave Lancer to me," our own Lancer stated, leaving no room for debate and showing no hesitance about the prowess from Lancer of Red. Maybe his own pride was acting up? It's likely the true battle will start this coming night. Archer looked contemplative. They know our location. We must prepare for a siege. This castle has stood tall for centuries. It will not fall under my watch. Lancer declared. Send a message to Castor. Start preparing the golems. The Castor servant and his master seemed to be quite alike, opting to spend all their time together in their workshop. Lord Darnick nodded in agreement. We will prepare the homunculi as well. Once Gords awakens, I'll have him take command. Until then, Calls has been managing them well enough even with his inexperience. So that is why Berserker and her master are not present. Well, I do not believe Berserker could add anything to the discussion. The war did not take place during the day. It was one of the more stringent rules that was relayed by the Grail. This coming night would be the first true battle of the war. Archer of Red, Atlanta, POV. Sis, come on, one drink. I scowled, looking at Ryder who propped himself on up a table, head in his hand. The laziness he was showing betrayed his true alertness. I've hunted enough to see when a predator was ready to move, when all their muscles were taut to spring out and catch a prey. Stop calling me that. I hissed in annoyance. Stupid brat. I can't truly be mad at him about it either. I know he's calling me that affectionately without any hidden agendas. Achilles. He lives up to being one of the most famous heroes in the world, especially from our homeland. But I couldn't help but find it a little endearing the way he swooned over me, or rather my life. Fanboy. The term formed the Grail stuck to the forefront of my mind. When we had free time after our summons, he would regale me with tales his father used to tell him, stories about the Argonauts. He said I was his hero as a child. Not Heracles, not that buffoon Jason me. Maybe that's why I truly couldn't get mad when he called me something like sis. Hey sis. He intentionally ignored my dissatisfaction if the small smirk was anything to go by. What did you think about that saber? Strong. I said pointedly. Come on. Sis, gotta give me more than that. I only fought her for like a few seconds. Ryder feigned indignation. I tapped my finger against my arm. It was annoying to have to wait here like this. We had been given orders to stand by in this half-destroyed church while that Shiro Koto mine was taken off to be healed. Saber of Red's master had managed to wound him in some regard, but we didn't see how much. She was fast, maybe only a little bit slower than me. I had to constantly make distance between us. I had no hope of defeating her in close combat. Every one of her strikes would be debilitating, if not lethal. Her technique was without flaws, and it seemed like, no, never mind. It seemed like the arrows I had infused with magical energy were treated the same as my normal arrows. Maybe I was just imagining it. She had divinity too, or her weapon was a divine construct. Achilles added. She got through my armor. He grinned. Her weapon didn't give off that kind of oppressive feeling, like your shield. Not all divine constructs are the same. Ryder shrugged. I guess he would be more of an authoritative figure on that. While my bow was a gift from Lady Artemis, it is not a divine construct. But I agree with you. Ryder continued. That woman was definitely a demigod of some kind. Why are all the boys around me battle maniacs? What about her master? Ryder paused, holding himself back from getting angry. I'll kill him the next time I see him. I couldn't help but let out a sigh. Ryder, no, Achilles. I managed to grab his attention. You need to watch your temper. I'm fine, it's fine. He put his hands up in surrender. And somehow I don't believe you. You sure about that? Siegfried. The table beneath his hands shattered, even if his expression didn't change. He didn't speak, but looked down at the new mess he created. Sorry. The story of Achilles is well known. Most of the world is aware that he went to war knowing he would die, but to gain fame that would last thousands of years. To deny him his name so blatantly, it was an easy way to rile him up. I half suspected that Saber's master was aware of his true identity and was doing this on purpose. I won't tell you not to fight him. He's clearly strong enough to match a servant, which is odd in of itself. But you can't go into it that angry. Honestly, this makes me feel like the times I was with Medea back when she was just a little girl and I had to scold her every so often. You're going to have my back. Achilles, I need you to have a clear head. I didn't want him to mess up my wish was left unsaid. Dramatic entrance. Both me and Ryder snapped our heads towards the door that was slammed open, Castor walking inside. I felt a headache coming on. Ryder, you should have told me you were the legendary Siegfried. I have many tales to write with such new inspiration. Castor loudly proclaimed. I'm gonna kill him, Ryder said with a frighteningly calm tone. Haha, such an obvious death flag is merely a misdirection. He slid onto a nearby seat. I have heard some interesting rumors as of late. What's this about a master who is about to fight evenly with you? Castor's grin was a little bit grating even to me. He sounds like a protagonist in the making. He's all right for someone from this era. Ryder grunted out with a begrudged respect. Say what you will about Achilles, but he didn't even hate Paris for killing him. He wouldn't hesitate to skewer the foppish Prince of Troy, but he would not hate the man even after his death. High praise indeed. Castor nodded in satisfaction, before turning to an empty corner of the building. Do you have anything to add, Lancer? My eyes widened slightly, and even Ryder seemed surprised as Lancer materialized at the spot Castor was glancing. Castor was able to notice before both of us. How did you notice me? Lancer seemed surprised. My good man, if I couldn't keep track of all the characters, what kind of master playwright would I be? Castor arrogantly proclaimed with an exaggerated arm wave. Lancer? Ryder ignored the Castor servant. What happened to your arm? I would very much like to know as well why Lancer was missing his arm from below the elbow. Lancer glanced down, rubbing the stump with his good hand. I met a worthy foe, he merely replied. For someone with such a legendary tale, your storytelling leaves much to be desired, Karna. Castor let out a winded sigh. His name was not unknown to us, and that made it all the more unbelievable. Karna was a monster, to put it plainly. I knew I would have no chance against him, and I would be hesitant to give Achilles odds better than a coin flip. No matter. Castor stood up. William Shakespeare shall regale you all with a tale of such. Who'd you fight? Ryder interrupted him, asking Lancer directly. I have a hard time believing a ruler did that to you. Kill you with a command seal or something, I would believe, but to take an arm like that? I don't buy it for a second. I believe you met them. Lancer closed his eyes, seemingly unperturbed about his missing limb. My master summoned me back with a command seal. Okay, just ignore me. Castor slumped back down in his seat, taking out a pen, and began writing on some parchment. The brat or the woman? Ryder asked. Both. Lancer's reply was curt. I attempted to follow my orders, eliminate ruler. But Saber of Black interfered, and he was successful in keeping me away. He was someone I had to focus on. Oh, sounds interesting. Maybe I'll get a chance to have a go at him as well. Ryder clenched his fist in expectation. Stupid boys. Always looking for a fight. Lancer just hummed without giving an answer. Then Saber of Red appeared, interrupting our fight. She descended upon Saber of Black while her master fought me. He is a strange person. I couldn't tell what he truly was. Yeah, thought he was a demigod at first, but he doesn't have any divinity in him. Definitely not fully human, though. Ryder acknowledged. Was he responsible for that light show? Saw the lighting, but I'm pretty sure that fire was yours. Lancer nodded, but was quiet for a moment, a bit contemplative. He did something, a power I did not understand. Oh, it was able to contest my divine flames and destroy them. Are you sure? I spoke up. The fact that a magus had a means to fight servants and destroy Lancer's divine flames. What in Hades' name was he? How can someone like that be unknown to the point where the Grail gave no information, nor do our masters know anything if their silence was indicative of the situation? He didn't reply to me, but he didn't need to. Lancer was not the kind of person to make false claims like that. I will give one last piece of information. You're in a sharing mood. I feel like there's a catch. Ryder looked at him strangely. What you want? His servant. I will face her. Lancer stated. Oh, want some revenge? I didn't hear you say the brat took your arm, so I'm guessing it was that Eastern woman, eh? Revenge. Lancer whispered the words to himself. No. She is merely someone I cannot coexist with. He shook his head as if convincing himself more than us. I will not seek her out, but I will defend myself. I let out a sigh. Ryder just grunted as well. Yeah. I won't go fight her on purpose, but if she gets in the way, I'll take her for myself. Lancer didn't outwardly show it, but I think he was pleased with our replies. The Master of Saber, I believe he is the more dangerous of the pair. Ryder snorted. He was strong, but he wasn't that strong. That saber of his packed a punch. Even if his magecraft is impressive, what can it do to us? Lancer shook his head but chose not argue. He survived my noble phantasm unscathed. Ryder spoke one last time before going back into spirit form. Oi. You can't just say something like that and bounce, Lancer. Ryder stood up, looking around. Oh, he already left. Castor said offhandedly. One-armed ass. Ryder slammed back down into his seat with an annoyed grunt. Sis, what you think? Ryder, don't dismiss his words because of your anger. I chastised, but I think it wasn't needed. Ryder would huff and puff, but he wouldn't take Lancer's words as hot hair. Maybe his pride wouldn't allow him to admit it out loud, but Ryder would take the fight seriously next time, or as seriously as he wants to. At the very least, he won't treat the living man as irrelevant. Castor, you know something else. I turned towards the playwright. I know many things, my furry companion. Do you know how painful it will be to have arrows sticking out between your legs if you call me that again? I narrowed my eyes. Well, exit stage left it is. Castor quickly got up, about to leave before Ryder put a hand on his shoulder. Such a famous playwright graces us with his presence. Ryder smiled innocently. Why don't you tell us a story or two? He visibly pushed the weaker servant back into his seat. Haha. Well, I have many things to attend to. I am required to aid Lancer in healing his arm. Then I must report. Ryder's eyes darkened. I insist. I think I heard Castor's shoulder crack, and a small smile found its way onto my face. Wilhelm POV. Take off your shirt. Reiko commanded. Moving a bit too fast for me. I sputtered out as her hands were pawing at the edges of the fabric. Mommy needs to see if you're hurt, she whispered, trying to work the buttons, but stumbling from an almost frantic worry. Reiko, I replied, grabbing her hands, making her pause. Look! I untucked the shirt, revealing where I had been stabbed. It's healing fine, just give it a little time. She looked at me, pouting and about on the verge of tears. What am I supposed to do in this situation? I was doing my best to not have Avalon heal me, so I wouldn't waste Artoria's stored magical energy to go to waste, so that was taking some effort to maintain. So, my natural healing, amped up by both my heritages, my aura and my lightning form, was visibly working its magic even if the wound was decently deep. It should only take a few minutes at worst. Hug! I offered. She practically threw herself into my arms as I awkwardly pat her back. I mean, it's not like I'm not physically attracted to her. In fact, in any other situation I would definitely be hitting on her. But right now I was more focused on Scat-Hack, and there was the fact that she probably wasn't in her right mind because of the mad enhancement. Just the teeniest little inkling that maybe her constantly calling me her son was not the normal thing to do. I felt really bad. She answered my summons, so I would try to do right by her. If she wanted a son, I would do my best. After the war, I would see about mitigating or outright removing this mental pollution and go from there. Reiko, tell me about the saber you fought. She sat up, releasing me. A cute little smile on her face as she pat her lap. Mama wants to spoil her master. I shrugged, letting my head rest in her lap. It was nice. Saber was just a bigger insect than most, master. You don't have to worry. Mama will take care of him next time. I felt her fingers run through my hair. How about just satisfying my curiosity? I offered an alternative. She looked thoughtful. I believe he's either Sigurd or Siegfried. The glowing dragon tattoo, along with his physical resilience. Well, I'll just call that karma then. Is it because I was making fun of Achilles that this happened? I did feel that dragon slayer aura from him. Fight him. You sure? I don't ask for much, brat. But I want you to fight him and use me when you do. All right, I'll do so when the opportunity presents itself. Frankly, part of me wanted to fight him as well. Ruler should be Jeanne d'Arc, the Saint of Orleans. I revealed. Probably not good for me, but at least she won't do anything to me unless I break the rules. So I have some time before an angry saint comes and tries to kill me. Is that so? Reiku replied, almost uncaring. Insects don't need a name when you step on them, master. Yup, totally normal mindset. Lancer was interesting. I survived his noble phantasm. I felt good about it. I could take pride in that fact. My spell, even when I added on to it, held up against his noble phantasm. My pride as a magus was stoked. Master. Berserker's expression turned dark. I wish to deal with Lancer. You took off his arm already, which was pretty damn awesome. I gave her a thumbs up. She did look happy at my praise, but it wasn't like before where she noticeably perked up. What's wrong? I don't know, this feeling in my chest when I met him, it's like he's someone I can't bear to look at and I have to crush him. Strange, but not much I could do with that for now. Well, there won't be any fighting during the day. I'll take a nap to recoup some aura and stamina, then why don't we hit the town and have a little bit of fun? I've already made all the preparations before the battle. Not much I could do right now. I'd rather spend some time with Reiku and get to know her better, find out why she's the one who I summoned out of every heroic spirit. Oh, a date! Reika squealed in delight. I'm excited, I can't wait, she happily exclaimed, shifting gears so naturally. Well, she's happy, that's the important bit, I guess. Chapter 163. I took slow, methodical breaths. Eyes closed, I focused on my aura as it pulsed around me, following the rhythmic rising and falling of my chest. I lost track of time, how long I had been sitting here, cross-legged on the ground, but I could feel my aura reserves refilling at a noticeable rate. Aura was something that resonated with one's emotions. It's why meditation was a powerful means of increasing the rate that your aura recharged at. Being calm and serene, not allowing any negativity into yourself. It meant that your aura was not impeded, your soul could flow back out unabated. That was the theory anyways, and Jin had helped me with a few things. Well, I could confidently say this worked, just based on my own practice. My aura reserves were relatively high after doing this for a few hours. That, and I had gotten about 4 hours of sleep, which also helped refill them. I didn't even mean to fall asleep in Reika's lap. Don't really regret it either. Taking a deeper breath than usually, I let go of my aura, allowing it to just flow out naturally. I opened my eyes to see Reika sitting silently to the side, eyes never leaving me. She had so much patience. I don't think I could sit here for hours on end if I wasn't doing something. At least with my meditation, I had something to focus on. Climbing to my feet, I lightly stretched my arms and felt the side of my stomach. There was no pain, just a tiny bit of tenderness. Any issues while I was busy? I turned to look at my servant. Reika shook her head. I had not sensed anyone approach. She replied happily, I pursed my lips. I had thought this place would have been found out by now, or at least be under watch. Closing my eyes again, I searched the link I had with Sir Wiggles, and he was standing near a pile of dead doves again. Ah, that explains it. Good job, Sir Wiggles. I was about to look away until I noticed something about my familiar. About his feet. What? I had to call him back, because I was surprised. The rabbit burst through the door with an astonishing speed, faster than he was the last time I had seen him, and he hopped right into my arms. I lifted him up to get a better look. I never thought of that. I looked at his feet. They were encased in a sort of lightning armor. In that, the lightning was so condensed that it looked like a completely solidified form. My rabbit is a genius. Why am I even surprised anymore? Though it gave me several new ideas for some spells and such. While I've trained with my lightning form to get it more or less under control, I had yet to push the boundaries with it, to truly see what I could gain from my new ability. Hey, Reiku! I called out as she hopped to her feet. I barely had time to blink before she was behind my arms, wrapped around my chest and chin on my shoulder. Hee, she lightly giggled. Does Master need Mama's help? Could you show me your lightning? I asked, ignoring her draping herself over me. I was sorta used to her doing stuff like this by now. Like this? She asked, holding one of her hands out in front of me, her signature purple lightning invoked, and dancing across her fingers. I hesitantly reached out, a single finger touching on it. I wasn't harmed. I think Reiku was consciously reeling it back from harming me. Interesting, I can immediately tell how much denser it is than my lightning. I held my hand out, mimicking her own actions as my lightning also manifested. My son takes after his mom. Reiku cooed. I have many more thoughts about this now, things I can do that I hadn't considered previously. Sir Wiggles, wiggled out of my grasp, wanting to go out and play some more. I didn't have an immediate need for him, so I allowed him his fun. Strangely, I think he was becoming more intelligent. Maybe awakening his aura jump started something inside him. I would need to consult Jin when I got back. I moved out of Reika's grasp and took her hand. Ready to go shopping? The town was deceptively peaceful. Technically, this place could be called the territory of the Red Faction, but for the moment, we were pretty much safe. One of the information dumps the Grail gives is a very stringent requirement that the fighting must not take place during the day. Most people are willing to abide by the rule, even without the threat of a ruler servant, because no one wants the counterforce coming down on their heads. It may seem like a huge jump to make considering the counterforce very, very rarely makes any overt action, but the Grail Wars are one of the exceptions. I guess another factor would be the world lines they preside in. If certain realities are important, the counterforce has a much firmer grasp on allowances. The secretive nature of the magical world is oftentimes referred to as the moonlit world, and that was more than just a poetic naming convention. It had actual bearing on the operation of mystery during the night time. Even the counterforce is more asleep, for lack of a better word, during the hours the moon is in the sky. During the night, the greater masses are more susceptible to suggestions, to allow themselves to ignore or believe lies and fabrications. Conceptually, it's when things can be hidden with greater efficiency. Obviously, there would be no way a mountain getting removed would be ignored on a wide scale, yet there was no one talking about it or kicking up a fuss. The Grail sat on the ley lines in the area it resided, and a small part of its power went to ensuring the secrecy on a larger scale. Even the Fuyuki Grail worked similarly, to ensure that people believed that the destruction was caused by something as inane as gas leaks, or that massive magical phenomenon was just figments of their imagination, that Artoria didn't unleash her noble phantasm to slay an evil god trying to manifest into the world. That was one of the old man's contributions to the Grail's creation, and one of the few parts about it I remember vividly. But I digress. What about this one? I glanced over to Reiko holding up a sweater to herself, asking my opinion. I like it. Purple really is your best color. I nodded in approval. She smiled brightly, hugging the piece of clothing like it was the most precious thing in the world. So sweet. She began looking through the rack of clothing again. I didn't rush her, allowing her to inspect it, to experience this culture that she was probably unfamiliar with. Is there anything else you want to do today? I asked her. Since we're not needing to do anything during the day, I wouldn't mind doing anything that took your fancy. I did wish to get to know her better. Ufufu, my master is caring about his mother. She giggled to herself. Though my place is on the battlefield, I enjoy spending my time leisurely, to spend it here with you just like this. It is refreshing, to not be a general but just a woman. Reiku, I let out a sigh. You said you didn't want a wish from the Grail, but I'll do what I can to make sure you're happy. It was the least I could do. Master, she looked at me coyly. Be careful what you say to a berserker like me. I am a rather possessive woman. When you say things like that, it makes it hard to think of you as a berserker. Like she's completely aware of her own madness, yet is still afflicted by it. How strange. She tilted her head cutely at me. Please do not forget that I am a demon, master. It may not be wise to keep me by your side. Did you forget what I am? I raised an eyebrow. I wouldn't trade you for any other servant, Reiku. If she was willing to fight by my side without a second thought, how could I ever betray that kind of loyalty? Oh dear. She looked flustered. It's embarrassing for me to say this, but I am quite happy to hear that from you. Well, I stopped mid-sentence, as Reika looked to the side and I followed her gaze. This is a surprise. I greeted the newcomer that had come into the store we were patronizing. Hey there, Frenchie. I greeted Ruler. Ruler stood there, in what looked like a school uniform, watching both of us intently. Master, allow me to deal with the unwanted bug. Reika's expression turned dark. Berserker, no fighting during the day. I called her off. She didn't argue with me, but still gave Ruler the stink eye. "What do you want?" I addressed the saintess. She looked a little embarrassed. I sensed a servant nearby. "And you were checking to make sure we weren't breaking any rules." I finished. "Yeah, I guess I can see that. I can bet the other servants are holding up and preparing for the battle that will inevitably take place tonight. So we probably seemed really out of place, just spending some time in the middle of the town." I apologize for interrupting. Reiku just huffed in annoyance. "Quick question. Why are you in a school uniform?" I was honestly kind of curious. "Oh, it's nothing," she said awkwardly. "If it's your fetish, just say so." What?" she squeaked out. I thought Japanese school uniforms were revealing, but those are practically booty shorts. I admired the view. They really do display your legs quite well. Yeah. She turned bright red, like she was unsure of how to react to my words. Don't know why, but I continued to feel like I had to bully her. I guess it was lucky we hypnotized the store owner into taking a long break while we shopped in peace. "Master likes legs?" Reika bit her finger, muttering to herself. "I will find some better clothing." Well, I wouldn't talk her out of that course of action. "I didn't wear this willingly." Ruler managed to get out, her face still a bright red. Curious. I took another look at her, a true look as I analyzed her properly. "Were you even properly summoned?" She stepped back. "How did you know?" Ruler said in shock. "It was a guess, but you confirmed it. Actually, it was similar to how Artoria was summoned." "How did it happen?" "You tricked me." She frowned, before letting out a sigh. "I don't know, I wasn't properly summoned by the Grail, so I had to find a vessel." She looked at her hands. "This person was the best suited for me." I guess she wanted to keep the name of her body a secret. It made sense. I know plenty of mages who would want to dissect her after the war. "But," she quickly added, "nothing will happen. She'll wake up after the war is over with nothing wrong, and even a little gift when everything is done." I rubbed my chin. The Grail will be guaranteeing her safety, and probably do the equivalent of giving her some good luck as compensation. Neat. Again, there were very few in existence that had more knowledge about the workings of the Grail than I did. But why a schoolgirl outfit? I lost my luggage when Lancer attacked. Her shoulders slumped. Now I just feel bad. "Fine, pick out some stuff." I sighed, waving around. "I'll cover the costs, penniless saint. My devil ancestors must be rolling in their graves." "Are really?" She perked up, looking at me strangely. "I can't show you favoritism during the war, even if you help me." "Do I look like someone who needs your favoritism?" I asked. "I guess not." She seemed to accept. "I did not think a master could fight a servant like you did." She spoke a little quietly. "Even if you use me as a shield. If it's any consolation, you make a wonderful meat shield." "It isn't." There was a small twitch above her eye. I noticed it before. I think it was a visible indication of her hiding her annoyance. Well, I had plenty of time to verify it. "Master, how do I look?" Reika stepped out of a changing room. I hadn't even noticed she went in. My eyes practically popped out of my head. She was wearing some very short shorts that displayed her magnificent legs for the world to see. Nice. Today was turning out to be a good day. Chapter 164. "Here, order anything you want." I gestured towards a menu sitting in front of Ruler. We did a little bit of shopping, and she picked out a couple things she found more appropriate for herself to wear. It was probably a bit of a culture shock to see the variety of things available in this era she could wear. Fun fact, Romania has its own currency, and this place does not take either American dollars or English pounds. May or may not have technically stolen the clothes, then robbed the store for some loose cash. I did leave quite a bit of gold behind as an apology, though. I think that lets me off the moral hook. Honestly, I feel like it's one of those things I overlooked because I was focusing on the bigger picture. I tend to do that a lot. The restaurant we were in wasn't too large, but I wasn't particularly picky right now. I could easily grab something out of my ring and tide myself over, but I was curious about this Ruler servant. How many times in the future will I be able to sit down and calmly talk to a saint as a devil? Reika was behaving herself, relatively speaking. She no longer was looking at Ruler like she was about to strangle a puppy. I had somehow convinced her I was just trying to get some information out of the Ruler servant, and I had no other intentions. I was not oblivious to the red flags that Reiku had been smacking me in the face with, but there was not much I could do about it for the moment. Once I get the grail sorted, I should be able to help her with her mad enhancement. So many strange dishes, Master, help me decide. Reiku pouted, trying to make sure she kept my attention focused solely on her. I can't say I'm knowledgeable about the cuisine here. I looked it over. I was not hiding the fact that I was a glutton, so I didn't mind just splurging. Let's just try all the big stuff. I'll feed Master. Reiku muttered to herself. Fufu. Well, if it makes her happy. What do you want, ruler? Oh, She fidgeted with the menu in front of her. I'm not really hungry and I don't need it. You're in an actual body. Even if there won't be any physical repercussions if you forego eating, you'll still feel hunger pains. Based on what Artoria told me. Apparently, that was an eye-opening revelation, because there were points where she and Rin were in particularly bad situations, and she went without eating for days on end. No, really. It's okay, you don't have to. She politely declined. If you tell me no, I'm not going to push it. But if it comes from some weird place like thinking I'll expect goodwill in the future, or that I might harm you. I trailed off, not feeling like I needed to finish that sentence. It's not that, she said quietly. Something wrong. Am I? She awkwardly held the menu in her hands. I don't know how to read. Pardon. I blinked at her in confusion. I can't read, she said quietly. But the Grail should have downloaded the information into your head. Not to mention servants have the ability to parse every language in the world due to this. Was it a side effect of you not having a proper vessel? I rubbed my chin. Perhaps there are other side effects as well. I was lost in thought for a moment. Wait, you spoke to someone here not too long ago. How were you able to do that if the Grail didn't give you the knowledge? She turned a little red, a bit embarrassed seemingly, and it just made me more confused. I can understand the languages fine. Then what are you? I paused, her meaning finally sinking in. Puffed. I held back a snort of laughter. It's not funny. You're right, you're right. I held my hands up. It's hilarious. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at the absurdity of the whole thing. A heroic spirit who ascended after their death from worship through the ages, someone written down in the annals of history, is illiterate because her legend depicts her as a peasant girl. She turned bright red, and her eye was twitching something fierce. I never had the chance to learn. Too busy fighting wars. Big G didn't think it a good idea to give you the ability to read and write with your revelations. Be Big G. She squeaked out. How could you call the Lord something like that? What's wrong with Big G? It's blasphemous. She huffed. Says who? What do you mean, who? Who says that calling him Big G is blasphemous? Well, she didn't appear to know the answer. We can always consult the Bible. Just tell me which passage to seek out. The corners of my lips curled up. Ha! Couldn't help it. Her eye twitched again, and for some reason, I couldn't help but enjoy her reaction. I looked over to Reiku, who didn't even want to acknowledge ruler if she didn't have to. I'll just order a bunch of stuff for all of us, I stated, earning a sigh of relief from ruler. Master Seiya. Reiku held a fork up to me as I took a bite. It's good, I happily replied, earning a bright smile from my servant. What about you, Frenchie? My name isn't Frenchie, she grumbled, taking a bite. But it is delicious, thank you. Well, I can't just start calling your real name in public if you want. I chuckled, only to stop in realization. Huh, I never did properly introduce myself, did I? I wanted to ask you a question, but I didn't know what to call you, she said awkwardly. I hummed to myself for a moment. I'll obviously keep my family name a secret for the moment. Feel free to call me Wilhelm. I introduced. I did have a bit of pride in my name, but I was fine to keep it hidden for now. Wilhelm. She spoke with a small smile. I cannot reveal my true name as the administrator of the... Even if you made it rather obvious. Her eye twitched again. It's a secret I must keep. Okay, Saintess. I twitch. Please call me ruler. Whatever you want, Jean. Ruler let out a long sigh. I've been curious. She looked like she wanted to change the subject. What is your wish for the Grail? She looked at me intently. Curious? Why would you be curious about my wish? I waved my hand flippantly. Shouldn't you expect me to say something like seeking the root as a proper magus? Maybe. She pursed her lips. But you don't seem to act like how I would expect. She admitted. My dealings with both sides so far have been stressful. I offered with a chuckle. That is one way to say it. She let out a sigh. Let me guess. Lancer of Red tries to kill you for some reason. Saber of Black comes to your rescue, and his master tries to recruit you. I am impartial. I will not reveal any information to other participants in this war. She said firmly, not acknowledging what I said as either right or wrong. But I could read in between the lines here. She continued, You have been generous in providing me aid and haven't sought anything in return. I was merely curious about what you wished to achieve if you gained the Grail. What if I wanted to drown the world in death? I just thought of the most edgy thing I could think of off the top of my head to see her reaction. I have a duty to be impartial. Your wish has no bearing on how I will act unless I'm forced to by the world, she said without hesitation. But my instinct is telling me you do not wish for such a thing. Instinct, huh? Is that another way of saying that you're being pinged by Heaven's system, revelations as they're called? Heaven's system? She tilted her head in confusion. Different vernacular, I suppose. The means by which followers of the Church can access the power of the heavens. There are rules and requirements. What else to call it but a system? Oh. She seemed to understand, but otherwise wasn't offended. Is that how a magus understands the Lord's blessings? I just shrugged. I can understand it on a theological level. I'm just incompatible with the teachings. She looked at me strangely. You never answer my question. What is it you wish for? I didn't think you'd notice. I tapped my finger on the table, and for the first time in this conversation, Reika started to pay attention. Well, she was paying attention to my answer. I'm a very selfish man. Someone I cared about is gone, and I want to bring her back. Someone you cared about? Ruler's eyes lit up. Someone you care about? Reika mimicked her words, and her expression turned a bit dark. I misjudged you, Wilhelm. Ruler's eyes brightened. You are fighting for love, she proudly declared, briefly glancing to the increasingly annoyed berserker. What? I sputtered out. How romantic, she exclaimed, reaching over and cupping my hands. I can't help you, Wilhelm, but I will silently support you. She smiled brightly. To fight for such a pure reason, to willingly fight against servants out of love. There was a crumpling sound next to me where Berserker crushed part of the table in her hand. Master. Reika's smile betrayed the killing intent around her. I turned back to look at Ruler. You're doing this on purpose. I have no idea what you speak of. Ruler gave a very innocent smile. As you know, us French are very enamored with such beautiful love stories. Did she just? Are saints allowed to do that? I have no idea. I like her. Well played, Ruler, well played. I would give her this one, even if the look Reika was giving sent made shivers go down my spine. She must have noticed my berserker's affliction, since she could see Reika's class and skills. Don't mind me, I'm just speaking from my heart. I couldn't help but laugh. I wish all saints were like you. I shook my head at the absurdity of this whole thing. To poke at me using only truthful words, well done. I reached over and pat Reiku on the head, soothing the seething look she was giving me. Well, you asked me a question. I have one for you too, Ruler. I don't mind answering as long as no rules are broken, she said with all honesty. Would you despise me if I turned out to be the antithesis to your beliefs? I was honestly curious to know her answer. Saint Jeanne d'Arc. She was someone who would not lie. Antithesis. She seemed confused. Let's say it turned out I was a demon, but nothing else changed. Would you think differently of me? If you were a demon? She seemed surprised by my question. I don't see how that would change anything. She looked down at the table. Humans and demons are just words. I don't believe there is any need to differentiate between them. I bear no ill will towards such descriptions, and I try to be kind to all. You are a strange woman. Reiku was the one who spoke up. She glared at Ruler as if measuring her. I strangely do not wish to crush this insect for the moment. I hope we don't become enemies, Ruler. I stood up from my seat, looking out the window. The sun was starting to get a bit low. I pray for your success, Wilhelm, Ruler said with sincerity. Hey, Reiku. I glanced at Berserker, who was walking at my side. Yes, master. She smiled at me. Thanks for answering my summons. I wanted her to know I did appreciate her. She seemed upset about earlier. I at least wanted to soothe her annoyance a little bit. Master, Reika quickly wrapped me up in a tight hug. Yeah, I was happy it was Reiku who answered my summons. You ready for what's to come? I asked her as the night approached. Have you devised a plan? She asked. Yes, we need to find where the Grail is specifically held within the 8 Millennia Castle. I don't have confidence in infiltrating somewhere so heavily defended without getting discovered. If I simply knew the location, I could pop in and grab it. The only issue that comes after is carefully severing all the little bits that are anchored into the local ley lines, which would take time, and I doubt I would be left alone while doing so. To not do so would be like pulling an engine out of a car with my bare hands. Things were bound to break in the process. I really meant it when I said I hope Ruler doesn't become my enemy, but I feared it may be inevitable. No plan survives contact with the enemy and all that. But we need to see how both sides move and go from there. If there is a wide-scale battle, that's in our best interest. But we can make do with some small clashes as well. Are we going to prepare for the coming battle? She asked. I doubt things will immediately escalate once the sun fully sets, so we probably have a little more time. I shook my head. There was one thing I wanted to check out. Sir Wiggles found an abundance of magical energy at a nearby cemetery. Based on what he transferred through our link, a servant summoning might have taken place there. Reika's lips thinned. You believe a servant is still there along with their master? Worth checking out. May also find a clue or two on any servants we hadn't seen before. That priest was the only master of the Red faction we've seen so far, and he doesn't seem like the type to do the summoning in a graveyard. Nor do any of the servants revealed appear to have benefited from such a summons, so I'm guessing we have an unknown here. If there is only one servant, then you will not need to fight, Master, Reika stated, and the look on her face left no room for argument. I held my hands up in surrender. If there's only one servant, I won't throw myself at them and support you from behind. Chapter 165. Well, isn't this just lovely? Almost immediately as I walked into the cemetery, I triggered the bounded fields around the place. They weren't entirely defensive in nature, at least not to another Magus. They were mainly used to keep away the mundane people. An illusion formed rather quickly, noticeably darkening the entire area. Then a fog rolled in, sparsely covering the ground. Reiku was in spirit form, walking close to me, and Sir Wiggles was running around just outside the graveyard. I looked around, noticing many odd and hidden things. The creator of this little trap was quite ingenious. At first, I thought the outer defenses were made to scare away mundane people, but the more I walked, I realized this was just another layer of the trap. Master, we've been walking in circles. Reika called out in my mind. I know, don't worry about it. I replied, as I continued my steady pace. Several illusions layered on top of each other. It wasn't particularly hard to discover. Even an average Magus would realize what was going on after a little time. A genius, though, one of the higher-ups of a long lineage, they would notice quickly. And what would someone with such an arrogant attitude and inflated ego think about such an idiotic little trap? Either have their servant destroy it, or do it themselves. I mentally chuckled, looking through Sir Wiggles' eyes to see spell circles carved on many tombstones that were facing away from the path. If the bounded fields were disrupted, I was almost certain they would go off. 'Cause it's a thriller, I hummed, continuing my pace without a care. Really sets the ambience. I glanced to the left, at what should have been an empty space distorted. There was a man now standing there, leaning against a tombstone, wearing black leather and smoking a cigarette. Not many people appreciate the effort. He chuckled. What gave me away? Kind of hoped for some dancing zombies. I wasn't taken by his lackadaisical attitude. He was clearly still on guard. I could imagine his servant was nearby as well. There was only one spot without any traps. Wasn't too hard to figure out. I shrugged. Oh, you were able to see through everything then? He took a drag of his cigarette. You're pretty talented then, huh? He flicked his cigarette on the ground before stepping on it. Here's a question. How come I've never seen your face before? Have you tried not wearing sunglasses at night? I asked. Surprisingly, he didn't make it look douchey. He just started laughing. All right, you aren't as bad as those stuffy brats from the association. He noticeably looked down at my hand with the command seals. So what are you doing here? Oh, well, it was a lovely night. I thought, why not go for a walk in the local cemetery? Wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've heard from another Magus. I let out a sigh. Me too, unfortunately. So, I'm guessing you're a master of red? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. He crossed his arms, but I noticed his fingers almost instinctively edged towards the sawed-off shotgun at his hip. I'm guessing you haven't reached out to the others then, considering you're still up and about. He was silent, staring at me from behind his sunglass, what I was starting to assume were a mystic code. Oh, come on, work with me here. I flung my arms up. I walked right into your seat of power, at least give me the courtesy. It's not like you showed yourself to stroke your own ego. You want some information, I want some information. If it's that simple, why don't I just force you to give me answers then? He cocked his head. I let out a long sigh. Really, you want to keep doing this song and dance? I held out my finger, pointing to a tombstone in the distance, and fired off a lightning bolt, shattering it, and the illusion around us flickered before it completely dissipated. Though this man didn't look perturbed in the slightest, it didn't even register on his face. So, you found the anchor. You want a medal? I looked at him again, before pursing my lips. You're doing this on purpose to get a reaction out of me. I grumbled. Well, I can't fault you. How many magi are just batshit insane and hide behind a thin veil of civility? Humph. He didn't comment one way or the other. At least this man wasn't throwing red flags like that priest was. All right, I'll hear you out. Finally. But I want to hear about what you said of the other red members first. That's fair, I suppose. I was the one who came to you. I just nodded. Well, I approached a priest at the church in the city. His name was Shiro Kotomine. I spoke, watching for a reaction. That name is familiar, but I can't place it. He grunted. Go on. He seemed quite insist on getting me under his thumb, and wasn't slow to remove me when I wasn't being cooperative. Fought with Archer and Ryder, and one more servant I couldn't identify made an appearance, and the priest was calling the shots. He didn't respond again, opting to reach into his pocket and take out another cigarette. Well, shit. He ran a hand through his hair. Guess it was a good thing we held off on reaching out. Something fell off when I got a message from my supposed ally that was going to meet me here. I'm surprised you believe me. I'd like to think I'm good at reading people. Not that I'm not going to confirm things myself later. He shrugged. So what you want, an alliance? I wouldn't be against it. And how do you expect to split the wish at the end? Or are you going to give me some trite like, we won't fight until only we're left and settle it then? 'Cause that's just asking for a backstab. He snorted. That depends. What's your wish? Maybe I can grant it without the grail. I offered. Don't recognize you, so I doubt it. Unless you're some hidden super child of some renowned family. You never know. I grinned. I guess I got nothing to lose. I want what most Magus families want. Prosperity for my family. He said almost lazily. I could make sure your family is supported and has ample resources without them being attacked for several generals. I offered. Yeah, right. Pull the other one, brat. He snorted. But an alliance isn't a bad idea. He looked to the side and his servant materialized. But you see, my saber over here thinks we can take on everyone ourselves. At his words, the servant slammed their sword into the ground. The servant wore full-bodied armor, silver with red decorations, a regal silver sword in their hand, and their helmet had horns protruding from the side that made them appear a bit more intimidating. Oh, Shorty over there thinks they can solo all the other servants? I pointed towards the saber servant. Shorty! The servant spoke for the first time. Something garbled their voice that made it impossible to identify their gender. You want to say that to my face, you limey bean pole? Take off your helmet and I will. I smirked. Saber. The master spoke up, calming his servant down. Tisk. The saber servant clicked their tongue in annoyance but didn't argue. Well, you seem so confident. I'll just leave then, let you get on with your business. I threw my arms up in defeat. Though, one quick question. How are you going to deal with Ryder's invincibility to anyone not possessing divinity? He was obviously being difficult to eke out an advantage in this alliance I came here to maybe establish. To show that we needed him more than he needed us. It was also a way to get a clue to his servant's identity. God damn it. The master grunted, face palming. Seriously? Yup. I nodded. Achilles. A little bit of goodwill, and it would hurt that priest's plans in the long run if I revealed his identity. Fuck! All right, you ready to talk for real? I offered. His weakness was obvious. The body part was even named after him. But that didn't really diminish him much in my eyes. The servant was obscenely fast and very skilled. Once you started aiming for his heel, he would know right away and be able to counter. Survived 2 servants, and one of them was Achilles. Your servant must be pretty damn strong then. His hinting was obvious. Well, you showed me yours, I'll show you mine. I gestured for Reiko to come out as she appeared right next to me. Meet Saber. I introduced. You fucking what? The real Saber blurted out, as their master just raised an eyebrow. Insects shouldn't speak, unless they want to be stepped upon. Reiko looked at Saber darkly. Bitch, you want to go? The Saber servant grabbed their sword, pointing it at Reiko. Saber. Their master sighed, placing a hand on their armor before looking at me again. I'm sure I had the only Saber servant for the red faction. Really? Let's compare the two. My Saber is so refined, elegant, beautiful. She carries herself with such tact and regality, while yours just struts around like a brute. Clearly you must have summoned Berserker. Want to jerk me around in a conversation? Turnabout is fair play. Master. Reika turned red, smiling happily. I think I heard Saber growl from this far enough, and surprisingly, red lightning began to crackle around them. See? Getting mad at some little words. I gestured towards the servant. Saber's master face palmed. Hee. Humph. Saber reined herself in, the lightning dissipating and sword returning to the ground. I'm the greatest knight. I won't be goaded by some 2-bit flamboyant spellcaster. I ignored her attempts at insults. Greatest knight, huh? Should I call you Lancelot then? I hazarded a guess, but I didn't find it likely. The armor around her helmet shifted and churned. It adjusted itself as the helmet moved away from her face, revealing what was underneath. What part of me looks like that disloyal, philandering, adultering bastard? She suddenly shouted, Artoria! I suddenly blurted out as I saw her face for the first time, ignoring her outburst. Her head snapped at me, eyes meeting mine. The fuck did you just call me?